Welcome to a new episode of Parenting and You with me, Dr. Shefali. When I became a mother, I was somewhat ready for the sleepless nights and the unwanted weight gain and all the frustrations that it took to be a new mother. But let me tell you what I was completely not ready for the expectations of how to be a perfect mother. I wasn't ready for all the judgment I felt from culture, from society, even sometimes from my own parents. I wasn't ready for this crippling sense of anxiety that I wasn't meeting expectations. I felt I needed to be every kind of mother: the athletic mother, the good cook mother, the good looking mother, the skinny mother, the sexy wife, the career woman, the perfect, kind, patient mother. Oh my goodness, the expectations but I also know all parents out there put on themselves, especially us women, it's just too much. The burden is unrelenting. It's as if on top of the daily struggles of raising a child, we now need to meet some unrealistic expectation 24/7. It's that burden, that unrelenting, crushing burden of expectations that I think is our greatest plague. That's our enemy. The expectations we have of ourselves, that we feel from others, and then that we put on others. So that's what we're going to be talking about in this episode of Parenting and You. Coming up next, we're going to get deep into how our parents' expectations of us and our children drive us crazy. We're going to meet Marie now, who is going to talk about the expectations she feels from her parents who have moved in with her, and she's kind of caught in the crossfires between her parents and her children. So here's Marie. Welcome. Tell us what you're struggling with.
Hi. So I'll start by saying that my parents are immigrants. They came to America. They brought us over here, my sister and I, when we were very young. We grew up in New York. So I'm the oldest. We spent all of our school years in America.
Let me ask you, they're immigrants from where?
From Hong Kong.
Okay, so Chinese
Yeah.
immigrants, and now you're first generation.
Yes.
Okay.
So we grew up with both cultures.
Mm-hmm.
We grew up with the American culture and with the Chinese culture. And now I have a 16-year-old daughter. We've come together and my parents live with us now, and because that's what we do in our culture.
So your partner right now, is he Asian too?
He's not.
Oh, so what is he?
So I'm divorced. My
Okay.
daughter is from my first husband, who was Asian,
Okay.
very Chinese, I would say.
Okay.
That's another story, but he's Caucasian, my current partner.
Okay, so currently you are assimilating your family with your new partner, and
Yes.
your parents, who are Chinese immigrants, are now living with you. So that's the situation.
Yes.
Okay, so it's a real mesh of different cultures now in your house.
That's right. We also moved here I spent 12 years in Shanghai, China.
Mm-hmm.
I was working there. So my daughter, who's 16 now, she actually grew up in China
Okay. Okay.
with her father, and then we came here in 2020. So we've been here for 3.5 years now, back in America. She's also assimilating.
She's also assimilating, correct. So everyone is adjusting, everyone is kind of finding their footing in this new home. So now talk about what you feel from your parents, because I know that's something you're struggling with.
The parents, again, with most immigrant parents, there are expectations of what your children are going to do when they come to this country. You know, they gave us the best tools that they could give us, but a lot of it was the typical, you're going to be a lawyer, a doctor, or an
Yes.
accountant, or an
Yes.
engineer. And I became none of those things.
Okay.
To be honest, I think for me personally, I feel that we probably didn't communicate this, but I feel that I disappointed them in my career choices and my life choices, to be honest. Even though I'm doing great and I'm happy now that I have a daughter and they're with us again. And she is a very different person, very different from me or anyone in our family. I feel that weight,
Mm.
the expectation, the judgment. I'll be honest, they don't communicate it that much. Maybe that is the problem, but we do have a difficult time communicating it.
So how are you picking up on this? Is this something you just non-verbally assume because you see it in their smirk or their jawline or their shoulders? Or is it something that they're actually doing to convey their dismay?
So there's a lot of the nonverbal. My mom's a master at the little snide remarks every so often.
I hear you.
And that triggers me.
Beautiful. So, how does that trigger you? Because that's what's really important. Ultimately, it's not what the other person does or doesn't do, it's how we get triggered. So, tell me what happens inside you and then how you react.
For me, it's a buildup. I'm a non-confrontational person, so and I've had confrontations with my mother before, and I'm at an age that I don't want to do that anymore. I keep a lot of it inside. I personally think I've been very good about not putting it on my daughter, but I keep it in my to
Yes.
it builds up in me.
Yeah, I hear you. So, and this is so typical when we confront our parents. What happens to us in those moments is we relive the same roles we did in childhood. So, if we had parents that were oppressive in their burdening us with their expectations, if they were really, hierarchical and they use their power to make sure we followed their ways, it sounds like you had some of that, then we as children, feel that suppression. And that doesn't leave us for a long time. And actually, we carry it within us into other relationships. But now, when we confront them, the original quote unquote perpetrators, then of course we inhabit that role again. So, again, you're feeling that oppression, the silencing, the suppression. You are swallowing a lot of feelings just like you did in childhood, right? You're feeling the weight of her expectations and you're interpreting it as, I'm not good enough. Again, I'm not meeting her expectations again. And you're feeling kind of micromanaged and scrutinized, even though she's not saying much.
Yeah, exactly. Without saying much at all.
Without saying much, it's the weight, it's the oppression, the weight of the silent oppression that is crushing you. It's the same weight you felt as a child. So let me ask you, Marie, if you could, in all your power, and if your mother was receptive and the most nurturing parent ever, which of course, then we wouldn't be here, but if she was, just give me 3 lines of what you are dying to say to her, but you've never been able to, and just enter that power that you've never occupied with her. What would you say to her?
I would say, I'm okay. Don't worry about me.
Yes.
I'm going to be okay. I figured it out for this long. I've lived an amazing life, even though I didn't become a doctor or an engineer or an accountant or a lawyer or whatever it is. Yeah, I treasure every experience that I've had. And I think I've had more than many people, and I wish they could see that.
I love that, Marie. Now, I want you to say that again with a lot of power, as if you believe it, because I wasn't believing it. So occupy that power again. You see, it's because you don't believe it and you are still hesitant. You're like, I'm okay, and I'm really okay, Mom, and I want you to see I'm okay, but I'm not believing it. And you're not believing it because you are still comparing yourself to the expectations that she has. So as a young woman now, in her power, she's done amazing. She's been through so much. But Marie needs to feel that and walk around with that energy. So do it again with a stronger, powerful energy. Let me hear you.
I'm okay. I am okay. I'm better than okay. I've lived a great life. I've had amazing experiences. I'm proud of everything I've done.
Beautiful.
And I'm going to do even more. So
Beautiful. Now, what would you like her to stop doing? Mom, I need you to stop what? What would you say to her?
stop worrying in her silence.
Yes. But here's the thing. Here's the thing, right? We can say that to her, but she could still worry. So ultimately, we need to tell her, I would like you to stop worrying, but that's your choice, right? We cannot change older people, especially. But I am no longer going to what? That's the change. That's the new Marie. That's the boundary we need to create with our others who put their expectations on us. I'm okay. I would love you to stop worrying or controlling or caring or interfering. But if you're not going to, this is what I'm going to do. And that's you taking charge and creating a boundary, no matter what she does. So, what are you going to do, even when you see her disapproving of you, even when you see her flinching or, kind of telling you to stop or judging you? Marie has to do something differently inside yourself. So, let's communicate that. What are we going to do differently, even if we see her disrespecting you or judging you?
I'm going to brush it off and move forward
There you
and
go.
move on.
There you go. It seems so easy, doesn't it? But the reason you can't do it is because in those moments, Marie is not an adult. Marie is a child being oppressed by her mother's unrelenting expectations. And she's still feeling all that pain like, Mommy, am I good enough? Can you approve of me? Can you validate me? So you're still stuck as a little child in those moments. So, what do you want your daughter to observe? A mother who is stuck in her little girl self, or an empowered woman who is able to forge her path? What would you like your daughter to observe?
Oh, absolutely the latter. That's the powerful person I want her to become, and she can become for sure.
So, in order to make that journey from 3-year-old Marie or 5-year-old Marie who wants her mother's approval to an empowered woman who celebrates her life and her choices and doesn't need her mother to approve of her anymore, what does Marie need to do within herself? That is the key question. What do you think you need to do in yourself?
I need to take out my insecurities. I know this about myself. I'm a massive pleaser.
Yes, yes,
And also seeing that my daughter feels it, even if I put on a facade of I am, strong. I am, and we're so close that I know that she can sense any weakness in me,
yes.
which is okay sometimes, but not in a situation where someone else is directing my feelings. So I need to be stronger in that.
Even your own mother is waiting for grown-up Marie to come, right? So she keeps worrying. She doesn't enjoy worrying. Even the most controlling of parents at their core really are getting tired of it by the time they grow older. Think about yourself, right? If you keep micromanaging your child, did you forget your alarm? Did you forget your backpack? Did you forget your water? We do it, but oh boy, wouldn't we love to stop doing it and be reassured that our children are not going to end up as losers? In the same way, your mother is waiting for you to occupy your power and your adulthood and tell her, Mom, you can choose to worry if you want to, but I'm here to tell you there's no need because I got it. I'm happy, I'm powerful, I'm in charge, I know what I'm doing with my life. You can do what you like with your own mind, but I'm here to reassure you there's no need for your worry. At some point, our parents need to be released also from being our parents. And most parents will back off when they see that their children have grown up and they're flourishing and they have no control over them anymore. So I think that boundary from a very empowered place where you can release your parents of the worry and the concern will also be a dramatic shift in your relationship. If you can do that, if you can step into your power and create that boundary with your parents, that will turn the dynamics around.
Yeah, with going back to culture, maybe it's my mind that tells me this, but for them, letting go of me means I have very stable work, which I don't.
Mm-hmm.
The divorce, I'm the first person in my family to be divorced.
Yes.
But go get a 9 to 5 job in a corporate office and they'd be happy, but I wouldn't.
What you're saying is that you and your parents have been so conditioned by that traditional checklist of success,
Yes.
happiness, and achievement. And because you haven't been checking off those boxes, You feel that no matter what you do now, your parents are not going to be happy with you. But that's what becoming an adult means. It means going against the traditions, going against culture's indoctrinations and stereotypes, and going against what your parents wanted for you, and making sure that you are okay with your choices. And it sounds like you are. So if you're okay with your choices, part of adulting, and this is what you would want for your child, to stand in her own power and fight against the tide, no matter what cost that was at, right? So the emotional cost for you is that your parents don't approve of you. But that cost is when we are still children inside. But now you're an adult, so you can bear that cost. You see, as adults, when we begin loving ourselves and accepting ourselves, we do have the capacity to bear the cost of our parents disapproving of us, because we realize they're not really disapproving of who we are as people, because no one can do that. No one gets that right. They're only disapproving of my actions because it doesn't follow the stereotype. So you know your parents are just mired in conditioning. You know that they're just stuck in that primitive way of thinking. So you really need to release them from being your judger, from being your approver, from being your validator. You see, you, Marie, are stuck wanting mommy's approval. You are stuck there. And until you realize that it's you who wants mommy to approve of her, you will keep feeling horrible about yourself, because your path is not the one that your mother wanted for you. But it's time for you as an adult to own that and celebrate yourself. But that does mean, Marie, you have to let go of your parents' expectations on you, your parents' approval. Can you let them stop being the approver in your own mind? Can you say, I divorce the mother within me that is disapproving of me? See, that's the divorce you haven't done yet. You've divorced your ex, but you still haven't divorced the disapproving mother who lives inside you. What's your final takeaway from this conversation that you're going to begin to work on and change?
Believing more in myself and how that is going to radiate to everyone.
Yes.
One of the things that I committed to earlier this year was being an example of love and abundance to my friends and family. And I think I've been saying that because I've been missing that, just being able to be who I am.
Yes. For yourself.
Yeah, without worrying about judgment from others.
You live with, as many first generation immigrants do, especially from Eastern cultures, we live with that burden of those unrealistic expectations. And because we haven't met them, we judge ourselves constantly. So if you could divorce the inner judger, now that will be the mark of your adulthood. You aren't yet an adult as long as you have that inner voice oppressing you. It's as if you're a child. So that's your task, that's your challenge. And I truly believe that if you do this one thing, it'll shift your whole dynamic.
I think so too.
Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much, Dr. Shefali.
I could so relate to Marie's story, and I'm sure so many of you listening could relate as well. We've all felt the burden of unrealistic and unrelenting expectations from our parents, from our culture, and how we grew up. You know, even if it was just a teacher who told us in elementary school that you should do better and you should be a nicer person, or our parents yelling at us in high school that we weren't good enough, those voices stay within us. And then when we raise our children, they flood our minds with judgment, with disapproval, with invalidation, and we feel crushed under that burden. That's what Marie was experiencing. And for all of us listening, it's really important to know that as we grow into adults, we need to work on approving of ourselves. We need to work on validating ourselves, because as long as we keep measuring ourselves by external eyes or our parents' opinions or culture's expectations, we will always fall short. Part of becoming an empowered parent or an empowered adult is to divorce ourselves from the criticism, the disapproval, the invalidation of others in our lives. Now, that is the true conscious divorce. Coming up next, I'm going to be speaking with a woman who is struggling with whether motherhood is right for her or not. Well, we're going to meet Flo, who is feeling a struggle about not meeting culture's expectations. Let's see what she has to say. Hi, Flo. I'm so happy you're here. Tell us what you're struggling with.
Hi. So yes, I'm a little bit lost because I'm 41, time is clicking, right? I actually don't know if I want a human kid. I have a dog and I feel a dog mom, but I don't know if I want this responsibility that carries with having a kid, especially in this crazy world we are living in. My life is completely hectic. I move a lot. And I actually don't know. It's complicated because sometimes you're with a friend who has a baby who is really quiet and nice, and you're like, I'm all in. And some days you pass through a kids' park and all of them are screaming, and you're like, might not be my thing. And then you feel like, I mean, if I want to have a kid, I have to have it or him or her in the next 2, 3 years, right?
Yes.
So
Yeah, I love what you just said because I also remember before I became a mother, every time I was around those sweet, obedient, quiet children, I was like, I can do this. And then when I would be on an airplane with a screaming toddler, I used to think, oh my goodness, I don't want that kind of kid. And, we have these visions when we're young that we can design our life, and design our children. I'll have a little bit of a naughty kid, a little bit of an athletic kid, but we realize quickly that we don't get to design our children. They are who they are, and you get what you get. So I hear you. And you're 41 and you're feeling the pressure of, what if I'm running out of time? And what other pressures are you feeling from culture? Because I know many women struggle with this issue.
yeah, I do have, right? Because it's like you're a woman, you should have a kid, right? And a family should be with a baby, right?
Yes.
I just don't know if I have it. I don't want to regret it either. I don't want to be 50 or 60 and say why I didn't did that. And when I talk to women who didn't had kids, because I'm from Spain and in Spain is something that is happening a lot actually, some of them are extremely happy and some of them are like, I do regret not to have a kid. And that's what actually it's giving me more anxiety is the fact of regretting after,
Yeah.
even if I don't know what it is, right?
Yes.
Because if you don't have it, you don't know what it is.
Yes. So let's just break it down. So you feel pressure from culture that as a woman, you should be a mother. So this is a huge pressure most of us feel. Guess what else you will feel if you have one child, because I have one child. I began feeling pressure to have more children. So even if you have one child, the pressure doesn't end. The expectation is to have a family that has more than one child. So I remember feeling that. Then we have the pressure of how a happy family should look. So then you're going to feel pressure that you need to have this kind of partner and live in this kind of neighborhood. So don't think it ends just because you get pregnant. It goes on and on and on. Do you feel pressure from your family members or from your close friends who hope that they would be aunties or your parents wanted to be grandparents? Because that's something many of us feel as well.
Yeah, I'm really, really lucky for that because my parents, they always told me, you do whatever you want, it's your life. They only had one kid, so I'm the spoiled solo child.
At least you don't feel that pressure that many people feel as well, because they often have children for their parents to be happy.
I do feel that one though, because they don't say anything, but I know they will love to, and they treat
Oh,
my dog as a right.
Right. So they would love to. So even though your parents are not saying it, there's this unspoken energy around wanting grandchildren. Okay, I hear you. But here's what you're really talking to. And I want every listener to realize it doesn't matter what your immediate friends or family may say to you. Culture has a prescriptive way of living. And if we don't fall into culture's mainstream, prescriptive, traditional way of living, we will pay a price. And you are paying the price of feeling this fear, this anxiety that I'm going to regret it in the future. Now, you may never regret it in the future, but you're ruining your present moment by thinking about the future. So, we're going to get into that in a moment. Before I do, I really want people to understand that when we don't meet culture's expectations, we pay an emotional price. And this could be for career, for sexuality, for who we're marrying or divorcing, where we live. Culture puts this on us. And if we don't realize that this is a heavy burden and we have the right to fight it, we have the right to go against it, many of us don't give ourselves this permission to fight culture. Until we do, we will constantly feel like we have to live in the matrix and we will pay a price of our happiness, of our joy. I have so many women who come to me who don't leave their marriages because culture expects us to stay married, for example. And then we have this fear of divorce and feeling ostracized. So, in many ways, culture puts so many expectations on us. So, let's talk about your fear of regret. So, say that again. What are you afraid of?
Regretting not having a kid or not being a mom, because all my friends say it's such a great experience. And then I'm there when they are like, I want to kill my kids, because moms also have that there is some days that they struggle. There is some days that they're,
Oh, absolutely. I always tell parents to go and talk to their non parent friends and tell them the real truth about what's happening. This is
yes.
not some romantic, rosy, colored vision of some fantastic life. It's very hard. And you're so mature because you realize it. I became a mother when I was, I think, 30 years old. I had no idea how hard it was. You're conscious. You realize that this is not some, rose-filled future that you're going to have with your child. So that's so mature of you. But you're at the same time feeling this regret. So let's talk about regret for a second. If somebody went to Hawaii and said, "Oh my goodness, you should be living in Hawaii. I wish we all lived in Hawaii or on the moon," would you start regretting not living in Hawaii?
No,
Okay, why wouldn't you?
I've never been there.
You've never been there, so you don't really know, so you won't really believe it. And the second reason is connected to how you feel right now. Do you like where you live right now?
Yeah.
Right, but for the most part, you're not thinking about Hawaii because you're happy in this moment.
Yeah.
So this is a little lesson about regret. In the future, we could regret everything. Not living in Hawaii, not learning French or Portuguese or Turkish or anything, not, pursuing the arts, not becoming a sculptor, not climbing a mountain. The list is endless. And not becoming a mother. Or in my case, I could say, you know what? I really regret not having 17 children. Why did I just have one child, right? I could begin regretting. So here's the thing about regret. We can regret anything. It's up to our imagination. But does that serve us? Is that the way to live? To say, you know what? I regret living in Idaho. I should have lived in Montana. The list is endless. We could keep regretting if we allowed ourselves to. But here's how to live in a better way. Instead of fearing regret in the future, we enter the present moment and ask ourselves right here, right now, is motherhood calling me? Or it could be another decision. This is about every life decision. Is becoming a skier calling me? Is moving to, Turkey calling me? Is learning a new language calling me? What is calling to me right now? And it sounds like to me that if you really dig deep, if you quietly look within yourself, motherhood is not really calling to you.
Yeah.
What does your true inner voice say when you're absolutely alone, when there's no pressure from the outside world, that's the voice we need to listen to. And it's for any decision. When I became a mother at 30, it was calling to me. Now, I could have been just conditioned, okay? I think I was, for the most part, just conditioned to check off that box. But that conditioning was so loud, mixed in with my own desire, that I knew for myself in this moment, I want a child. But guess what I used to think of? In the future, I'm going to regret this, right? I used to do the same thing. So I understand that you are experiencing this. So, what is your voice telling you in the quiet of your own internal peace? What does your voice say?
Not yet.
That's what you need to follow. That's the voice you need to follow. Not culture's voice, not the timeline that your body even says you need to follow. You know, many women just freeze their eggs if they want to make that choice later in life. That's always an option for you.
The funny part is when I was 30, 35, I had a clear no. It was super clear in my mind. My life was about traveling, was about living in different parts of the world because that always called me, but was never to have a baby. And then my friends started having babies, and I started seeing kind of like the cute part, not just the work that it's
Right.
related to that.
Right.
And yeah, and it always pushed away. And at that time I was like, I'm not ready. And now I know I'm ready. If I have a partner who tells me I really want to be a father, I will be jumping right in because I know I can be a mother.
What you're saying is that you can do it in terms of your maturity, you can do it in terms of your stability. That's what you mean you're ready in terms of your external life. All the pieces are in place. But I'm talking about your inner voice. There's a big difference.
That one says not yet, at least
Okay,
not yet.
and that's the voice you need to follow, because that relationship to your inner voice will determine how present you are in your next life decision. And I'm talking about any life decision, right? The expectations from culture are X, and our inner voice sometimes says not X, says Y or B or P. And that clash causes us anxiety and confusion. But when I hear you, I hear clearly a no or a not yet. So you need to follow your inner voice. I always tell people when they're making big life changes or choices, wait for the overwhelming yes inside of you, because you're going to need it to be a strong voice to carry you through, right? Who said you're going to become a mother right away anyway? Who said it's going to be easy anyway? So our overwhelming buy-in will allow us to go through the hardships of life. But if we don't even have an overwhelming buy-in, then we're not going to have the resources within to stand us through the hard times, to stick with us through the hard times. So follow your inner voice. Don't feel crushed by culture's expectations. Trust yourself that you will know how to follow your own way. Trust yourself. Be your own mother right now, and be your own parent, and listen to your own inner voice. That's the best thing you can do for yourself right now.
Yeah. It's funny you're saying that because my mom always told me they chose not to have a second kid because their life was too overwhelming and they were both working and my mom never want to step back. She always wanted to work and she was like, I don't have the time. My father didn't have the time. So they were, and I had this conversation with her and she said, please don't do it for us, even though I know they will love it.
But because they know that you need to own your choice. They know that this is such a big choice. We cannot follow culture's ways just because that's what's expected of us. You know, when we feel the pressure of culture here and we want to go a different way, that's the clash. And we need to free ourselves of this clash.
Yeah, and then a friend told me, you will be alone when you're older. And I'm like, well, I will be alone even if I have kids because my kids
Exactly.
have to have their own life. So it's you keep listening all these voices that tell you kind of like but you should. And it's true. Like if I quiet myself, it's a no. It's a complicated decision.
Right. And that is the truth. What you just said is the truth. Listening to all the shoulds from culture, just because they are doing it in a certain way, doesn't mean you have to do it. But you have to free yourself from this expectation.
Yeah.
And you have to allow yourself to follow your truth. And let me just tell you about your friend. Many parents listening right now think that their children are going to live with them forever, take care of them when they grow older. You see, many of us parents use our children for surrogate parenting. We use our children to be our nannies, hoping that they will take care of us when we grow older. And that is such a misuse of our children. It's not fair to put that on our children. So you are wise, you are conscious, you are aware, and all you need to do is trust your own inner voice. Thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you.
So many of us women grew up as girls believing that we had to become mothers. We should become mothers. And then if any of us felt as if motherhood wasn't for us, like Flo is feeling, we felt guilty. We felt as if we were bad human beings. And even I just had one child. Look how I just said that. I said, I just had one child because I too felt if I was a really good mother, I would have many children. So these expectations crush us, especially when they go against our inner voice. Part of becoming adult, empowered human beings is to figure out what our inner voice directs, what our inner voice wishes, and move away from culture's unrelenting expectations. When our expectations of our life, or when culture's expectations of our life doesn't meet reality, either our external reality or our inner reality, when expectations and reality clash, there is a huge tsunami within us. I often say that we need to live a life where our expectations match our reality. But when they clash, we are going to suffer. So the only things we can do when expectations and reality doesn't match is to either drop our expectations, change our expectations of ourselves or the others in our lives, or change our reality. But reality typically always wins. Often, the answer to all our life's problems is to align with our inner voice and go against what our culture says we should do or what others say we should do. Our inner voice is a mirror of our inner wisdom. We need to follow that voice, be bold, be empowered to follow what that inner wisdom says, because that's how we will live an aligned life. So the question I want you to ask yourself as you're listening to this podcast is, do I have the courage to follow my inner voice? Do I have the courage to make choices that are difficult because they go against other people's expectations, but they bring me joy? How can I become more bold and more empowered to follow my inner wisdom? Because you do have the inner wisdom, and you do have the freedom and permission to follow that wisdom. If you want to learn more about living an authentic and awakened life, visit my website. I have tons of courses and a vibrant community that you can join. And if you enjoyed listening to this episode, don't forget to subscribe and share it with those you love. And I'll see you on the next episode of Parenting and You with me, Dr. Shefali. Parenting and You with Dr. Shefali is for educational and informational purposes only. It is not intended as a substitute for professional medical, psychological, psychotherapeutic, coaching, healthcare, or other qualified professional advice, diagnosis, or treatment.